Cheer Hyungne, Ilsan. So this is another pre-recorded lesson, so it won't see the light of day until all the previous lessons have been watched. I'm not sure when that'll be, but I'm making all of these while the weather is still nice, so I can release them during the winter as they're needed. Let's get started with our stretches. So 10 jumping jacks. Ready, begin. Hana, du, set, net, das, yas, ilga, yadu, ahok, yul. Turn your head left and right. And side to side. Circle your arms. And reverse. Okay, rotate your shoulders. And reverse. Turn your shoulders side to side. And bring your arms up, turn all the way around your waist. And back to the center. Rotate your hips. And reverse. And now lean to one side and stretch. Really reach with your arm. Now reverse. Stretch again. And switch one more time. Back to the center. So let's bring our feet 2 shoulder widths apart. Coming down to the center. Ready, begin. Hana, du, set, net. Hana, du, set, net. Hana, du, set, net. Hana, du, set, and stop. Go down holding your ankles. I apologize if my stance is slipping a little bit. It's a little bit slippery with socks on the blanket. And reach to one side. Now switch. Back to the center. Let's come back up. Reach to one side. And switch. Back up. Now knee bending. So feet 1 shoulder width apart. Coming down, legs parallel to the ground. Ready, Hana! Do! Set! Net! Dasa! Yasa! Okay, and now for the long count. So, ready? Begin, Hana! So holding it here. Hana! Do! Set! Net! Dasa! Yasa! Yuga! Yudu! Ahop! Yul! Yohana! Yildu! Yilset! Yilnet! Yildasa! Yoyasa! Yoilga! Yoyudu! Yoahop! Sumo! And come back up. Shake your legs, and let's go down for butterfly position. Bouncing your knees. So keep your heels close to your body, bounce your knees. Try to bring them as low down to the ground as you can. And now come down and forward, push your knees down toward the ground. Try to relax your legs, that'll help you out. If you have someone at home who can help you with the stretch, have them push down on your knees slowly as you relax. That'll help you stretch out. And bouncing again. Down again. So reach down and forward. Back up. Bring your feet out to both sides. And stretch down to the center. So come down. Hana. Do. Set. Net. Dasa. Yasa. Yoga. Yudu. Ahop. Yul. Now come down farther if you can, otherwise hold it there. And push your stance a little bit more forward to get more stretch on the inside of the legs. Again, try to bring your whole body farther downward. You should feel a lot of stretch right around here. That's what you're stretching. And come back up slowly. Now go to one side and stretch with both hands. Now switch. Now back to the center. So this time 20 counts. So come down just a little bit for each count. Not every count needs to be moving your hands forward. You can also be adjusting your leg out, widen your stance, and be shifting your body to help you come down lower. Whatever it takes to get into that final stretching position, which ideally for this stretch, you would have your legs in a split on the ground and your body touching the ground with your chin on the ground. So it's pretty tricky. I'm not there yet, but if you keep stretching and really work toward it, that's the goal for this stretch. So let's come down, 20 counts. Ready? Hana, do, set, net, dasa, yasa, yoga, yudu, aho, yo. Now 10 more counts. Yohana, you'll do, you'll set, you'll net, you'll dasa, you'll yasa, you'll yoga, you'll yudu, you'll aho, sumo. Another way to get a better stretch is to bring your arms out far apart. It'll help you bring yourself lower. Try to get your elbows down to the ground. Really stretch out your whole body. And come back up slowly. Now stand up. Okay, let's do one more stretch. So lower yourself into a split. And catch yourself when you're low enough. Now turn to one side. And switch. And back to the center. Let's come up. So I realized that a moment ago I forgot to do push-ups, so let's do those now. So, ready? 30 push-ups. And Hana, do, set, net, dasa, yasa, yoga, yudu, aho, yo, yohana, you'll do, you'll set, you'll net, you'll dasa, you'll yasa, you'll yoga, you'll yudu, you'll aho, sumo. Now 10 more. I keep reminding myself that I need to learn how to count to 30 in Korean. Right now I know up to 20, but it shouldn't be too hard to get up to 30. So next lesson, I'll try to have that done. 10 more. Hana, do, set, net, dasa, yasa, yoga, yudu, aho, yo. Okay, and now stay here for a moment. Every week I try to include a different stretch or exercise. So this week I'm going to do planks. So since we just did push-ups, let's do a low plank so that we're not using completely the same muscles. So come down and count with me. Hana, do, set, net, dasa, yasa, yoga, yudu, aho, yo, yohana, yudu,
your set, your net, your dasa, your yasa, your ilga, your yudu, your aho, sumu.
And that's enough for today. So the reason I'm doing this is to introduce you to exercises that you might want to incorporate into your regular warm-up. The ones that we do are good ones. Mr. Fong picked them out, and I guess he considers them the best set of stretches we can be doing. But if you do the same thing every time, it might get a little bit boring. So these are extra stretches you can do to exercise slightly different muscles and try to get a more balanced warm-up. So, cheer up, turn around fixing the form, turn back around, cheer up, kyungnae, good-sung. So, let's get started now. What we're going to do for hand techniques today is knife hand strike. So, you all know the regular way to do knife hand strike is coming across, palm down, hitting with the blade of the hand. You might also be pretty familiar with overhead knife hand strike, famously known as the karate chop, even though right now we're doing it in Taekwondo. So this one is great for demonstrations, for breaking boards coming downward. So you can do that for demonstrations and breaking at the promotions if you want to. But otherwise, we have a few more different ways to do knife hand strike. And I'm going to get to those in the next few minutes. So let's start out with regular knife hand strike, just side to side. So of course this one, we can use it for a multitude of different ways. Remember, you're striking to the neck. You want to be hitting with the blade of the hand, so avoid hitting with the fingers. Make sure you tilt it back a little bit, hit with the blade of the hand. You want your thumb tucked in. Just like a lot of different hand techniques we do. So, and then when we strike, you're striking to your side, neck level, back and forth. So when we do our strike, the strike, we're striking to the side. We've got our elbow strike. You don't want to hit too high or too low. So just make sure that you're using good form. And as you strike, for the sake of how we're doing it right now, we want big wind-up. When you're actually using this in a fight, you probably wouldn't do too much wind-up. But right now, we're showcasing our power and practicing the ideal way to do this technique. So, like if we were doing it in a form, this is the way we do it. We cross over and explode everything outward. So, another way to do it is to cross in the corner and strike, cross in the corner and strike. So there are a few different ways to do this. I prefer crossing over the chest. It's all very horizontal, and then everything explodes outwards. So let's practice this a few times, just back and forth, so alternating sides. I'm going to start to my right side first. So ready, hana! 2 set net dasa yasa ilga yudu aho yo hi. Okay, so you can practice that a few more times if you want to. Now I'm going to go on to a way to do it to the front. So this will be kind of like on an L stance. So stepping forward each time. So you're still striking to the side of your body, but in this case, you can be facing the one way. So when I strike like this, I turn to look at my target, and I'm doing it this way. I'm keeping my eyes ahead of me at all times, and I'm striking to what I would consider the front of me. So you're still technically hitting to the side when I do it like this, but it's all very forward oriented. So this is the way that you would probably want to do it if it came to a fight. If you are doing the strike, chances are you don't want to have your opponent standing right there and strike. They're probably out in front of you, and you need to strike like that. So once again, there is always a trade-off between power and speed. So when we're doing this right now, we're practicing it for power. So that doesn't mean it can't be fast, but it means it's probably slower than you would want it to be in a fight. So if I want a good powerful punch, huge wind-up, step into it, sitting stance. But of course, if I'm in a real fight, chances are I'm worried less about power and more about getting it in before my opponent can block. So little to no wind-up, I just punch and I bring it back. So in Taekwondo, there's always a trade-off between speed and power. So in this case, as we're practicing, right now we're practicing for power, or good, big techniques. So let's do it coming forward a few times. I'll let you decide how you want to do that. I'm just going to switch each time, because I don't have too much space. So we're going to step forward each time. So, ready? Hana! Two! Set! Net! Dasa! Yasa! Hey! And Paro! So, let's go on to the next one now. So the next one we're going to do is overhead knife hand strike. So once again, this one is great for demonstrations, for breaking. And the way we're going to practice it is on sitting stance, turning it into a walking stance. So as we're doing this, all we have to do to turn it into a walking stance is pivot your feet. So now I'm in a walking stance. When I strike, I'm going to strike the top of my leg. That way, I have something to hit, so I know I'm hitting with the right part of my hand. I can go as hard or as soft as I want to, so I don't hurt myself. And it's also good for conditioning. So, step out into sitting stance. Now, each time, we're just going to pivot our feet and switch into a walking stance. So, I'm using my backhand. So right now, what I have is I have my left foot forward, so I'm going to be striking with my right hand. And remember, on this technique, big wind-up. So this other hand isn't just sitting there while you're doing your technique, but to bring both hands around in a wheel motion. So if there's a big circle right here, my hands are following the circle. So this first hand stays out in front of me to start out, and then I'm going to pull it into an elbow strike while I do my actual strike. So they follow each other around, and I strike. So let's do that a few times. So ready, Hana! Duel! Set! Net! Remember, it's not just top to bottom, big circular motions. Dasa! Yasa! Ilga! Yudul! Ahup! Yul! Hey! Paro! So, let's go on to the next knife hand strike. So, the one we're going to do now is reverse knife hand strike, or ridge hand. So, this time we're not using the blade of the hand, we're actually using the inside of the hand on the thumb side. So you really have to tuck your thumb in to make a hitting surface. And if you can feel it, it's not really as tough as the blade of your hand. And this means that we're probably not going to be using this for our hardest strikes. This is for more of a fast technique. So when we're striking to the side, we can use all our power, all our wind-up. This technique is something that you might use in an actual fight, because when we're hitting the neck, it doesn't really take too much power to cause some pain. So we don't really need to hit super hard when we're actually fighting and not trying to break a board or something like that. So this is a speed technique. So you can hear the snap in my sleeve. It's almost like a punch, but it's hooking around. So this is almost like a hook kick for your hands. So you're thrusting your hand forward and hooking it around. So pass through the neck. So once again, really keep the thumb tucked in. You're hitting with the side of your hand. So let's practice this technique a few times. So let's just get into a natural stance. So almost like a half sitting stance. Yeah, just for this, so we can practice on both sides. So ready, hana, do, se, ne, dasa, yasa, yuka, idu, aho, yo, hey! So let's practice this on fighting stance a few times now. So you can think of it just like strike, step in and strike. Ready, hana, do, set, net, dasa. Switch, other side. So hana, do. So this works especially well if you're doing open hand fighting. So we can do a closed hand fighting. So got our hands up like this, or open hand like this. There are a few advantages for both. I'm not going to go completely over those right now, but using this ridge hand is especially useful if you're doing an open hand fight, simply because you don't have to transform your hand from a fist to a knife hand. You can simply move from an open hand to a knife hand, just like that. So it's really important that you don't telegraph, you don't show your opponent what you're doing. So if I'm about to kick, I don't want to take my time stepping up for a step kick, and I don't want to show my opponent I'm about to do a ridge hand before I do my ridge hand. So if you're doing this with a closed fist, you have to be fast, so transform it almost instantly. So you see I almost turned it into the knife hand before I struck, and that would have shown my opponent exactly what I'm trying to do. So let's do it a few more times on the other side now. Hana, do, set, net, dasa. So haro. Okay, now we're going to go on to another way to do knife hand strike. So this one is, instead of called the reverse knife hand strike, this is the inverted knife hand strike. So inverted just means upside down. So we call this the inverted knife hand strike because our hand is upside down. So this time we are using the blade of our hand, so strong fleshy part. But instead of coming one way, we're coming the other way. So this is the inverted knife hand strike. One way that you might set it up is by keeping this hand out here first. So this hand can just be out there to protect you. If you need to block with it or anything, you can just put it out there to fake out your opponent, make it look like you're going to strike, and follow with this. Or it can even be a punch or a palm strike up to the face. The important thing is what this does is it brings attention away from your knife hand strike, and maybe even covers your opponent's view of it a little bit. So if you can get this close to their face, they might not be able to see this strike coming. Because this strike, to get a good powerful strike, takes a big swooping motion, and of course those big motions are a little bit slower. So in order to hide this strike before you actually use it, you put the hand out and strike, hand out and strike, or punch, strike, punch, strike. So let's practice this one a few times. So I'm just going to practice it on sitting stance. So remember to set up that hand first before you strike. So ready, Hana! So once again, striking at neck level. So you almost start like you're going to wave at somebody, then you swoop the hand down into a knife hand strike. Hana! Do! Set! Net! Dasa! Yasa! Yoga! Yudu! Aho! Yo! Hey! And Paro! So, now let's do this in a two-part combination. So palm strike, swooping or inverted knife hand strike. So ready, Hana, do, set, net, yasa, yasa, yoga. You do. Aho. Yo. Hey. And Paro. So now let's go on to our last variety of knife hand strike. I didn't even know that this one existed until a few weeks ago when Mr. Ruli showed it to me. So I think we went over that in the class. So this is almost like a reverse inverted knife hand strike. So we're using the inside of our hand, and our hand is upside down. So I guess you could say that this almost completes a set of knife hand strikes. There are a few different ways to do everything, and this one kind of finalizes everything. It's the last combination we can do. So this one comes from low, so it's still like a swooping knife hand strike. So this one comes like this. This one goes like this. So I'm still not perfect on this one because I only recently learned it, but hopefully we can all still practice it together. So this one you might use during sparring. It's good because the direction changes a little bit on it. So your opponent isn't necessarily sure where you're going to try to strike. Just like if you do a hook kick, it looks like you're going for a roundhouse kick, but then it turns back on them and it's a hook kick. So this is a good fake technique, and just comes out of nowhere and strikes your neck. So it's also fast. So this makes this a pretty good technique for sparring. Once again, if we are doing sparring, we're not actually striking the neck, because that would be just too dangerous. But in a fight, if we end up using this technique, this is the sort of time that you would use it. So, let's practice this a few times on both sides. Let's do it in a fighting stance. So, with the lead hand, Hana, do, set, ne, dasa. Now switch. Ready, Hana, do, set, ne, dasa. Hey! Paro. So that's the reverse inverted knife hand strike. I don't know of a better name for it. If you think of one, you can mention it to me, and maybe we can start calling it by that. So, cheer Kyungne, yosan. So I've moved this blanket again, because now we're going on to kicks. And also because I needed to put my shoes on so I could regain feeling in my feet. I said that I was recording these videos while it's nice temperatures out. By nice temperatures, I mean 45 degrees. Feels like 40, so still a little bit cold out here, but I'm doing my best to do it before we hit the negatives. So let's start out just with front kick to warm up. So ready? How about right foot back? Hana, do, set, ne, dasa, yasa, yoga, yudu, aho, yo, hey, and switch. Hana, do, set, Net. Dasa. Yasa. Ilga. Yudul. Aho. Yo. Hey! So, Burrow. So now let's go on to Axe Kick. So, Axe Kick is similar to a front rising stretch. You're bringing your leg, keeping your leg straight. You go up and chop it down, just like an axe. You bring up your axe and chop, bring up your leg and chop. So this technique takes a little bit of flexibility, so you can use it to get stretched out and get ready for Crescent Kicks. So what we're going to do is just lift up your leg and chop it down. Put a little bit of extra force into it on the way down so that it's a good, powerful strike. With this technique, ideally, you could strike the shoulder, hit the collarbone, right around here. You can feel that little horizontal bone in between your neck and your shoulder. That's where you want to aim on this technique. You can even tap it a few times, and you know that if you get kicked there with a solid kick, it's not going to feel great. So if you're flexible enough, that's where you're aiming. You could even use this to hit the head, or you can just drag it down your opponent's body, bring it up, scrape down their body. Really anything you do with this kick is probably going to hurt. So you can use this, especially if you're a little bit more flexible. So let's have right foot back again. So there are different ways to do this kick. The two main ways I'm talking about now are coming up to the outside or coming up across. So when you're doing this kick, you need to remember that there's somebody standing in front of you. So you can't just bring it straight up and down like we do in the front rising stretch. You have to go around the person. So one way to do that is go up around them on the one side, bringing your leg up a little bit to the side, or you could cross your body with your leg and come straight down the other way. So this kick is kind of like a very tall triangle, or maybe an A shape. So you're coming up to the side and down. So one way to do it, probably the one I would go with, would be to cross your body and then come down, because when you cross your body with your leg, you get a little bit more protection. But I'm going to let you try it out both ways, just to see what works for you best. So let's do a few axe kicks on each side. Ready? Hana! Duel! Set! Net! Dasa! Alright, now switch. Hana! Duel! Set! Net! Dasa! Hey! So, Paro! So that's our axe kick. And the reason I'm having us do that is because now we're getting ready for crescent kicks. So, crescent kicks, kind of like hook kicks, are something that we haven't worked on too much, but that we should be continuing to work on. So there's the inward crescent kick, when I lift up my leg to the outside of my body and kick across. So I'm kicking inward toward my body. Or I can do outward crescent kick. I bring my leg up across my body, and then I kick outward away from my body. So there are two ways to do that, and we're going to practice both. Before we get started, inward crescent kick is more of a strike. This is definitely the sort of kick that you would use if you wanted to hit someone's head, just because it's a little bit more made for that. You're using the bottom of your heel, which is a powerful part of your foot. So when I kick, I've got my foot bent like this, trying to hit with the bottom of my heel. And if you get hit with that, it's like a slap in the face. Or if they're using their heel correctly, more like a punch in the face. So it really doesn't feel good. So this is an excellent kick for offense. When we're using our outward crescent kick, it's more of good for blocking, just because it can move something. Well, both can be used for blocking, but I wouldn't use outward crescent kick as much for striking because you're using the back of your foot, and the back of your foot is a little bit more fragile, I guess. You're probably better off hitting someone with your heel bone than with the back of your foot, because all of these bones and all that thin skin might hurt when you hit like that. It's like hitting with the palm of your hand versus the back of your hand. Just doing that, I can feel the back of my hand stings a little bit more when I do that. The palm of my hand isn't as affected. So when you are striking offensively, I'd probably use that heel, use the inward crescent kick. When you're doing the outward crescent kick, probably keep that to stretches and blocks. So if someone's punching you, you can kick that punch out of the way and follow through. You can also use it just as a great stretch. So try to go close to a wall and see how close to the wall you can do the kick before you're hitting the wall. Of course, do that slowly, just to make sure that you don't harm yourself or the wall. But you want to keep it tight, close to your body. Really get big circular motion out of that leg. So let's start out with outward crescent kick. Now, outward crescent kick, we're just going to treat it as a stretch for now. So I guess the difference would be if you're using it as a block or something like that, you really just want to move the arm out of the way and come in there. When you're using it as a stretch, we're going for the biggest circular motion we can. So let's use this one as a stretch for now. Ready? Hana! Do! Sit! Net! Dasa! Hey! Now switch. Same thing, outward crescent kick. So you cross your body first, and then move outward. Hana! Do! Sit! Net! Dasa! So switch again. So if I am going to use this more as a strike, what I can do is just bring up my knee a little bit more. When we do it the stretching way, our leg is pretty much straight. The way we get a little bit more snap out of these kicks is by bringing up your knee, then snapping across. So this way you would treat it more like a wedge shape. I bring it up, I bring it across in a curve, and I bring it down. So that way you're getting good follow through on your kick. So up, across, and down. Kind of like that. Go on the other side. Kind of like that. But when we're stretching, we're going for a big circular motion. So now let's go on to our inward crescent kick. Now inward crescent kick, we're definitely practicing that up, across, and down motion. So not a big circle, just striking across. And you notice I got some snap out of those kicks. That's because as I kick, I add a little bit of snap to it. I extend my leg and then pull it back. Kind of like a front kick where I extend and come back. This one, I am getting that snap out of the kick. So let's do this a few times on the same side and then a few times on the other side. So ready? Hana! Do! And it's important to turn your leg a little bit. If you keep your leg stiff, you won't get a full turn, and you might twist your knee. So make sure that you're letting your foot turn a little bit on this kick. Sit. N. Dasa. Hey! Now switch. Hana. Do. Set. Net. Dasa. Hey! So Paro. Now we're going to do one more thing, which is step, inward crescent kick. So inward crescent kick eventually becomes the foundation for tornado kick. And in order to do that, first we learn inward crescent kick, then we learn step inward crescent kick, then we learn jumping inward crescent kick, then we add a spin to it all, and that becomes tornado kick. So right now we're just going to stick to inward crescent kick and step inward crescent kick. So it's pretty simple. Let's just do that a few times. Step up and kick. Ready? Let's do this moving forward. So if you've got enough space, you can do that. Otherwise, just switch each time or step back. Hana. Do. Set. Net. Dasa. Okay, now switch. So using the other side. Hana. Do. Set. Net. Dasa. Hey! So, Paro. So, that's all for the beginner section. Now we're going to go on to the advanced section. So we're going to elaborate on a few things that we worked on and a few other techniques. If you're still a lower belt, I want you to still stay with us and take a look. Maybe even try out some of the techniques. Not all of them are too hard. Some of them are just a little bit more tricky. So by all means, stay with me for that. And if you're an advanced student, this is definitely the time that you want to be working on the techniques, because these ones are a little bit trickier, so they'll take a little bit more effort to master. So, cheer up. Kyungnae, Ilsan. Right, let's begin our advanced section. So the only hand technique we're going to do is a combination. It's a grab and a punch. So Mr. Fong has been working on this technique a few times with us. So when we do it, we grab. So you can, this is called the tiger claw. So when we do this technique, it's kind of like a block, but we can also use it as a grab. So if someone's arm is out there, I come under my arm and grab. And another reason that we come under the arm for this technique, it's not just for style, it's also because it has a practical use, which is if somebody's holding onto your arm, that's not a good situation for you. They might pull you away, they might hold onto you and hit you. So you never want to let somebody grab onto you. If you're in a situation where you're in danger, you need to get rid of a grab. You can bring that arm under your arm, so under the elbow and across. So I come across, grab the arm that's holding onto me, and then after that I can follow with a punch. So this technique also has practical use. Get rid of a grab, and now you're holding onto them. You can push them down, you can hit them. So that's how you defend yourself in that situation. So let's go on and practice the technique now. So we're going to do L stance, walking stance, L stance, walking stance. So you can do this stepping forward. That's the way I'm going to do it. So each time we sink forward into the stance. So we take this arm and we pull it back with us and punch. And let's do that as 2 techniques to 1 count. So each time I count, 1, 2. So ready, Hana. Do. Set. Net. Now a few more. Dasa. Yasa. Yoga. You do. 2 more. I hope. You. Hey! So, Paro. So, that's our Tiger Claw, Grab, and Punch. We can also do this with Palm Strike. So, if you don't necessarily want to punch the person, you can use a Palm Strike. So, let's practice that a few times as well. So, Hana. Duel. Set. Net. Dasa. And Yasa. Hey! So, Paro. So, that's our 2-part technique, grab and strike. So let's go on to some kicks now. So the first kick we're going to do is using that outward crescent kick as a block. So when we use it as a block, you bring it up, hit the arm out of the way, and move in. So we're going to do outward crescent kick, front kick, punch, punch. So let's do that technique a couple of times, but I do it back and forth, so that way I don't need to switch too much. So first kick is outward crescent kick, followed by kick, punch, punch. So you do want it to be quick, just because once you kick, you're opening your body up, which means your opponent has more places to hit. They can hit your body, they can hit your head. With a little bit more ease, there's more space to hit. That's why we normally fight sideways, because it protects our body, protects our organs. But after you kick, you've opened yourself up a little bit, so you need to really advance and attack right after you block. So let's practice this technique a few times. So ready, Hana. Duel. Set. Net. Dasa. Yasa. Yoga. Duel. Aho. And yo. Hey! Now Paro. So now what we're going to go on to is jumping inward crescent kick. So this is the next step before tornado kick, and then after that, we're going to work on tornado kick. So jumping inward crescent kick is just jump and kick. So you could compare it almost to jumping roundhouse kick, because your first movement is a jump forward, and your second movement is turning your body over a little bit, or moving your body to the side at least, kicking to the side. So let's do this a few times. So ready, Hana. Duel. Set. Net. Dasa. Hey! Now switch. Hana. Duel. Set. Net. Dasa. Hey! Right, let's go on to tornado kick now. So tornado kick, we can start to practice that in 2 steps. So one is just the turn. So you bring up your leg, turning to your blind side. So 1 and inward crescent kick. So just a spin, then the kick. So I'll let you practice that a few times if you want to while I'm talking. So 1 and kick, and 1 and kick. On the other side, it's 1 and kick, 1 and kick. So eventually, if you do this fast enough, you can bring it up into the air, and that's the tornado kick that we're aiming to do. So you want to bring it up into the air, spin, and kick. So let's do that a few times, alternating sides so we don't get too dizzy. So remember the tornado kick, you want to keep your body fairly close in, so don't let your arms go out. They might go out there to help you stabilize your balance, but you want to keep your balance and keep your hands in. So keeping your hands in will help you spin faster. If I go like this, I can't really spin too fast. If I go like this, I can spin way faster. So keep your hands in, close to your body. You don't want to tilt while you're in the air. That'll cause you to lose your balance or fall when you reach the ground again. So you don't want to lean back too much. You want to keep your body fairly upright. So body upright, arms in. You want to turn and look at your target before you kick. So doing all that, you should be able to get a fairly good kick. Make sure also that you don't kick too soon. Make sure that you only kick when you are going to be able to reach your target. Some people kick too soon and then they under rotate, so they only make it to about here, and by the time the kick reaches the target, it's way too weak or might even have hit the ground already. So you want to only kick when you're ready to, and try to get a good jump too. So if you're not too familiar with this kick, don't jump too high at first. Naturally, take some time with a two-step technique, and eventually bring it into the air just a little bit, little hops, and then eventually work on bringing it up all the way in the air. Ideally with this kick, you want to strike while both your feet are still in the air. So let's practice this kick a few times. So alternating sides. Ready, hana! And do. Sit. And ne. Dasa. Yasa. Ilga. You do. Aho. And yo. Hey! So you can do that a few more times if you want to. Remember just to keep working on it. This kick, if you can hit the sweet spot on the target, is fantastic for demonstrations. There are other ways to do it too. You can do roundhouse tornado kick or tornado roundhouse. You can also do tornado front kick. I'm not going to go over those right now, but maybe in the next lesson I will. So there are multiple ways to do tornado kick, and however you do it, as long as you're doing it well, it's bound to look impressive. So let's go on to one final technique. This is going to be a series of combinations. So Mr. Fong calls this four-directional kicks when we're kicking in 4 different ways. So we've got four-directional punch, the lowest form, the white belt form, where you punch, block, etc. So what we're doing now is four-directional kicks. So it's very similar. This time we're going to block, kick, block, kick, block, kick, turning as we go. So let me move this out of the way. So as we kick, we're going to do outward crescent kick, inward crescent kick, outward crescent kick, inward crescent kick. So let's do that a few times. So when you bring up your leg, you want to kick to the side, follow with the inward, and then from here, kick, follow with the inward, kick, follow with the inward, coming back, kick, follow with the inward. So 4 different directions doing the kicks. So let's do 2 kicks on 1 count. So when I say Hana, then you'll go 1, 2. When I say dual, you'll go 3, 4. and so on. So let's practice this a few times. Ready? Hana! Duel! Set! And net! Alright, now switch. It's now rotating to the other side. Ready? Hana! Duel! Set! And net! Right! Switch. Now let's do this a different way. Let's do, instead of 4 different directions, let's do 3 directions. So only 3 sets of kicks. So instead of going 90 degrees, you need to go 120 degrees, just a little bit more. So ready? So you're going to be aiming a little bit behind you. Ready? Hana! Duel! Set! Now switch. So same thing, other side. Hana! Duel! Set! Hey! And paro. So, kyunne, kyosan. So that's all I have for this lesson. So keep practicing at home. When you're practicing, I want you to review what we work on in class at your own pace. Maybe just a couple techniques a day to spread it out through your week, and that'll make a good difference. I want you to practice some shadow boxing. So fight yourself in a mirror. See where your openings are, so make sure you're covering yourself. When I've got my hands out like this, my whole body and my head are uncovered, so keep those hands out in front of you. So work on your defense. You can also practice thinking of combinations on the spot to work on your offense. When you're fighting, you need to be able to react and then strike. So defense and offense together. And of course, if you have someone at your house who also does Taekwondo, or they have time to help you out, you can always spar with them. So between practicing, between shadow boxing, also working on your forms, all 3 of those every single week. And what I want you to work on this week especially is outward crescent kick as a stretch. So practice that a few times, and it'll help you get better at later crescent kicks and increase your flexibility for kicks overall. So that's all I've got for you. Have a good week and stay safe. Cheer up. Turn around, fix no 4. Turn back around. Cheer up. Kyunne. Yes, sir. Thank you for training.